I'm Lisa, and this is my presentation for my eMath resource package. So, for my rationale, I'm just going to use my binder because I can actually see it. Math resources and activities are one of the best ways to have students comprehend and execute math strategies they've been taught. Allowing students to use and explore the strategies they've learned can help them master the skills that best works for that student individually. The way I plan the resource kit is so that once students have been taught these different strategies, then they can practice the strategy that best suits their needs. So there's a bit of an open-ended idea to it so that they can practice however they want or whatever they're struggling with. I believe we shouldn't allow only the younger elementary students to use hands-on learning, especially when it comes to math. I think that the older grades would also benefit from these activities and strategies. So for organization, I did it two ways. So the first is a master copy binder. So in the binder, it has title page, of course. It also has rationale, organization, and then it is separated by grade. So there's a outcome for grade 1, and then the teacher card, student card, and master copy of the worksheet is listed there. Same goes for grade 2, for the 2 lessons I have there, and grade 4. So this way the teacher always has a master copy of the worksheets just in case the students use the last one and they need more. The second way I organized is through a file folder. This would be done a little bit differently in the classroom because I wouldn't have grade 1, 2, and grade 4 resources, but for this it works. So each lesson has its own duotang. In the duotang, so for grade 1, they have pictures. So this is the teacher card. So all of the teachers' information is here. So then a sub could use it, or TA. Then is the student card, and each of the instructions on the student card has a picture to go along with it to help the students understand what they need to get. And then the worksheets, and then the worksheet is in the back. Also in the folder of the organizer is the activity pieces that they need. So for this activity they need popsicle sticks, and it goes on the same way for the rest of the activities, and you'll get to understand that more as I pull them out. So going into the first activity, it is grade 1, and it's space and shape, or shape and space is the strand that I'm studying. So what am I reading? So it's Shape and Space 1.1. So they're demonstrating an understanding of measuring as a process and comparing and identifying attributes that can be compared in ordering objects. Specifically, determine which 2 or more objects is longest or shortest, measuring, and explain why. So this is a 1 student activity. It's done at their desk. And what the student needs to do is gather their materials and take a baggie of popsicle sticks. I've only made 1 just for purposes, but there would obviously be more in the resource kit in a classroom. And so they would take this worksheet here, and when they're at their desk, they'd have a pencil and eraser handy. Reach in, grab 2 popsicle sticks, measure them on the paper, trace them, and then identify which object is shortest and which is longest. And then they could do more, they could do 3. I put a limit to 3 to measure, and then they could identify them. And then they do it just to fill up the spaces, or as many times as there is popsicle sticks, depending on how many they choose. They could be done in partners if students are struggling, but there isn't much. If students have issues tracing, I also said that they could draw a line at the top and the bottom of the popsicle stick instead of manipulating the pencil around. This way they're able to still see which one is taller if they are at equal levels. But that is activity 1. So then going into grade 2, I have 2 resources. So the first one is measuring up, or measure up. So it's the same outline, it's the same across the board for how they're organized. So this one is strand, shape and space, sorry. And it's demonstrate understanding of non-standard units of linear measurement by describing choice of appropriate use of non-standard units, estimating and measuring. So and the indicator talks about personally relevant length. So for this activity, they would again need a worksheet, which looks like this. So they can go around the classroom or the hallway with a partner. They choose an object to measure, so maybe it's a poster on the wall. Then they decide what body part they're going to use to measure that would make sense. So maybe this time the student would choose their arm. They'd estimate how much of their arm or how many arm lengths it would take to measure the poster, and then they would actually do it and write in the actual measurement here. And that's all they need. Only items they actually need for this for this worksheet is a pencil and paper, so they can do that and they can work in partners. The final activity for grade 2 is right here, and it's make your graph. So this one is statistics and probability. So students need to demonstrate understanding of concrete graphs and pictographs. So in this case, it would be a bar graph because that works with concrete. There's 3 indicators. So formulate question relevant to oneself, community, and that can be answered by gathering information from the people. There's also select organization structure such as set of concrete objects, tallies, check marks, and so on. And finally, create a concrete graph to display collected data and support conclusions based upon the graph. So what the students need to do for this is they first need to come up with a question. So in the worksheet, they have a line here to ask their question. So for example, it could be, do you like cats or dogs? So then they'd write cats in option 1, dogs in option 2, go around the class asking peers and teachers which they prefer, using tally marks to mark down which one is voted for. Once they've reached 10 people, they will go back to their desk. They can also use a clipboard to hold their paper as they're going around gathering their data, just to help them hold on to it. Then they take some markers and they would draw their bar graph based on how many items or how many people voted for which, and display it at the bottom of the sheet here. Yeah, so other than the markers and the clipboard, that's all they need. They just need to go and use their social skills to ask students or their other students which ones they prefer. This is going into grade 4. It is called Toss and Divide. Okay, so Toss and Divide is grade 4. It's with numbers, and so it's demonstrate understanding of division, 1-digit divisor, and 2-digit dividend to solve problems using personal strategies for dividing. And indicators estimate quotient using personal strategy so they can round up. So this is a group of 2 to 4 students, and they can do this in the hallway. So what the students have to do, they have to gather their materials, of course. What they'll need is just a worksheet like this. So what they do is they go and they will toss the ball to their group members. So for example, it would be a larger ball, and it would be indicated which side was which. Unfortunately, I didn't have the materials and I couldn't get a larger beach ball, so this will do for now. What will happen is they'll be standing in a circle. They'll throw to one of the group members. Whatever fingers are touching, they will use. So I was touching 20 and 5. So it's 20 divided by 5. And so this one actually doesn't need any estimating because it's a round number, so it's a little bit easier to do. Because the worksheet is so spread out, they could also draw pictures if necessary, and they could estimate and guess what it'll be and then actually come to the answer. They can also use pictures to help them divide, just depending on what they need. And that's that game. So once they fill out the sheet, they can go to their desk. They can just fill in the questions and then answer them, or if they prefer and want more time, if they're struggling, they could write in the numbers and then sit on the floor and actually answer the questions themselves. Finally, it is multiplication war, and so this is also for grade 4. So it's again numbers 4.3, and it's demonstrating understanding of multiplication to whole numbers limited to numbers less than or equal to 10. And it's explaining the strategy used to determine the product. So this is in groups of 2. It could be in groups larger, but because we have taken out a portion of the deck, it's a little bit more difficult. So the students need pencil, paper, and a worksheet like this. So it has a column for the equation, what it was, the answer, and then whoever won. So you just write, so if I was playing with you, then if you won the equation, then I would just write your name in this line and we keep going. So this deck has had all the jacks, queens, kings, and jokers taken out of it. So all the students have to do is shuffle the deck, split it into 2 equal piles, and then flip over as you would in the game War. And then they have to multiply the equation, either in their heads if they're good at the math strategy, or using the paper, whichever they prefer. And so 2 times 10 is 20. Whoever says it first gets the point and gets the cards. If there's a tie, then they can flip over another set of cards or take 1 card to each. It doesn't really matter. All of these activities require the sheets to be handed in when they are finished, with their name attached. And also, all of my games I came up with on my own. I actually used the reverse lesson plan strategy we learned about in ECS 300 this year, or 311. So I picked my outcomes and indicators first and then came up with an activity afterwards, but I didn't use any resources from Pinterest or other websites.